Characteristics of populations. To begin, let's review that a group of organisms of the same species that live in the same area is a population. Sometimes an ecologist may need to know more than just the total size of a population. In many situations, it is helpful to know the population density or the number of individuals in an area of a specific size. An ecologist can calculate population density by dividing the number of individuals by a unit area. We know that populations grow, die, increase in size, and factors that affect the growth rate of populations include food, space, disease, and predators. Scientists have discovered that populations of organisms tend to grow in the same way. Populations start by growing slowly, and in the beginning there are just a few organisms that reproduce. Soon the rate of population growth increases because there are more organisms reproducing. If organisms continue to reproduce and are protected from predators and disease, the population will grow exponentially. A population's ability to grow depends partly on the rate at which an organism can produce. Bacteria are among the fastest reproducing organisms. A single bacterium can reproduce every 20 minutes under laboratory conditions if they have unlimited food, space, and water. After just 36 hours, this rate of reproduction would result in enough bacteria to form a layer almost a half a meter deep, covering the entire planet. While this is a theoretical example because the bacteria populations are undergoing exponential growth, the population multiplies by a constant factor at constant intervals. Another realistic example would be that you look out in your yard one day and you see one dandelion. A few weeks later, you may have 20 dandelions, and a few weeks after that, you may have hundreds of dandelions. The reason is exponential growth. One dandelion produces multiple seeds, and when 20 dandelions produce hundreds of seeds, they'll continue to grow. But the question is, can populations grow and never stop growing? The answer is no. There are factors that slow down or limit growth, and these are called limiting factors. When populations run out of food or space, growth will start to slow down. Population growth also slows when disease or predators attack populations. Compare the shape of the J-shaped curve of the exponential growth on the slide before. Now compare it to this graph, which shows an S-shaped curve as population growth slows or levels off. When a population slows or levels off, this is called its carrying capacity. The carrying capacity of an environment is the number of organisms of one species that can be supported for an unlimited amount of time. Until carrying capacity is reached, there are more births than deaths in a population. If a population grows larger than the carrying capacity of the environment, there will be more deaths than births. Density, or the number of organisms in a given area, affects population growth. Factors that are related to the density of the population are called density-dependent factors. These factors include disease, competition, predators, parasites, and food. These density-dependent factors will become more important as populations increase. When populations increase, they will begin competing for food, water, and territory. When only a few individuals need available resources, there is no competition. But when the population becomes so large that demand for resources is greater than the supply of resources, the population size will start to decrease. Populations also are limited by contact with other organisms in the community. One of the greatest examples of this is the story of the wolves of Yellowstone Park. In 1926, the last known Yellowstone wolf pack was killed in the surrounding area, and they were also wiped out. With the wolves gone and the bears and mountain lions greatly diminished due to unchecked hunting, elk populations skyrocketed. Between 1932 and 1968, the National Park Service removed more than 70,000 elk from the Yellowstone National Park by killing them or shipping them across the country to areas where they'd been eliminated. When the park stopped killing elk in 1968, the numbers shot up again for the next several decades. Hard winters left the ground littered with hundreds of carcasses of elk that had starved to death. Then, between 1995 and 1997, wildlife officials reintroduced 41 wolves to Yellowstone along with a couple grizzly bears and mountain lions who also prey on elk. Eventually, the elk population dropped, eventually evening out the spikes and the dips. But not only that, since the elk weren't eating and tearing down all the shrubs and the grass, the plants began to flourish again, bringing in more wildlife. With more plants on riverbanks, there was less erosion and the water levels rose and salmon began to return to the area. And this was all because the wolves were a keystone species that this ecosystem needed. When members of population live far apart, disease spreads slowly. But when members live close together, disease spreads more quickly. Other factors called density-independent factors affect populations, no matter how large or small. Density-independent factors include volcanic eruptions, temperatures, storms, floods, drought, pesticides, and major habitat disruption. For example, if a drought caused a pond to dry up, then the population of the fish would die. It would not matter if there were 10 fish or 100 fish in the pond. Okay, it's time to show what you know.